Okay, so I'm doing the Maven tutorial on. Okay, so I'm doing the Maven this website tutorial, the Apache Maven guide. This website provided by Apache itself, last published today. Guide going to that's start from the very provided by Apache itself, last published that people today who are watching this have done going to start from the very beginning. So let's go through Maven. I'm not going to Maven is a who are watching Java this packaging tool part. So let's go through Apache. Maven is a famous for Java packaging tool. Their server created by side software, including Ant, and also their server side software, including Ant. So also, let's take a look at. Let me make other tools. So I'm on Windows. Let's take a look. I'm going to be. So let me make this. Let's talk about how to set it up. I downloaded it on Windows, and I am going to be in a portable environment. Let's talk about how to set it up. I downloaded it already, and I am running in a portable environment. I downloaded Apache. From administrative privileges. So I downloaded Maven. I downloaded Apache here. From and then after you downloaded Maven from Apache binary, you don't want and then the source if you're after not you download yourself. So download the binary either you don't want or the source if you're not building yourself. So download the binary either the zip file or your tar.gz file. Your and then portable drive extract it as to your and then you want to add your portable drive path as to your and then environment variables. Add so the path that is to your like environment this. So you type environment variables in your start after you press the start menu. And then that is going to create a entry called, for example, this Maven underscore. So you type environment variables and then start after you press the start menu, and then we create a path name entry called directory. For example, Maven underscore home, and then the full add that path fully qualified to your path name environment to the directory along with and then / bin. Add that path to your. It's going to look like that at the end. Environment. Take a look at that again. Along with this line bin. Right here. %, Maven underscore home, %. It's going to look like that. / bin. Take a look at that again. So that is where my Maven. So this line right here. Binary. %, Maven underscore home, %. What I meant to do. / bin. So that is where my Maven binary lives. So I'll show you. If I run that directory, it takes me to a place where I can find Maven, home, MBN, and also MBN.cmd. And then if I run assuming that you got that, it takes me to setup. And you also have Java installed. I can find Maven, MBN to MBN.cmd specifications. Okay, so assuming that you got to have the Java set up, and you also have home Java directory defined in your environment variables as well. Specifications, that means that you're going to have similar to the Java that I just showed you. Home directory, essentially, it's defined in your environment variables as well. I similar to have the steps that I just showed you. Another version of Java, but essentially it's the on this computer, JDK, which I should probably. So let me try. I think I actually have another version of Java on this computer, which I should probably for your account. So so let me try setting that. Oh. That one I'm not sure how this works if you have for your account. So environment variables with the same name. Who gets the priority? I'm not sure how this works if you have. Let's check this out and see what happens. Check this out. I mean, let's try it. Oops. environment variables with the same, so the same name. Who gets the priority? I'm not sure. Let me see what's in
check
here.
this out, see what happens.
Oh, so check this out, I mean, let's try it. Okay, let me remove this actually. And then let me
Java
see
home.
what's in here real quick. Underscore. Oh, so there is. Okay, let me remove this. Try this. Let's see, where does it send us? And then
cool.
It sent us to Java home, the directory that I wanted it to look at, which is the open JVK. Okay, and then pre-release version 13.
Okay, cool. Okay, so now we're going to go through
the steps to the directory
install
that
and set up
Maven
to look at,
tutorial
which is
Hello
the
World
open JVK
in 5 minutes,
and it's
the
first
pre-release
version
is
13.
Okay, so
it's
now we're going to go
here in
through
the prerequisites, but
assuming that you followed everything I just said so far,
steps
you have
to
prerequisites set up.
install and
so
set
we're
up
going to skip
Maven
to this tutorial Hello World in
Maven
5 minutes.
So the
double
first
dash
step
version to see that is it is actually available.
It's described here in the
the
prerequisites, but
assuming that you followed everything I just said so far, you have the prerequisites set up, and we see that here. So we're going to skip to this. I can achieve the same thing if I do Maven double dash version to see that. So it says
is
actually available
3.6.2
at the time of recording, which is the 19th of November. And we see that
okay,
here.
so now
I can achieve the same thing.
It says creating a project.
You will need somewhere for your project to reside. Create a directory somewhere
and
start a
Maven
shell in that directory. On your command line,
at the time
execute
of
the following Maven goal,
which is the 19th.
So we're going to learn that a Maven goal is like a task.
Now,
and if I'm going to
it says creating a project.
You will need somewhere for your project to reside. Create a directory somewhere and start a shell in that directory. On your command line, execute the following Maven goal. So we're going to learn that a Maven goal is like a task.
So that means
and if I'm going to
around
try this
everything
in
that
has a space in PowerShell,
it's necessary that I separate
the
otherwise
it's not going to get parsed
correctly by PowerShell
into string.
So you see I have MVN,
So that means
and then archetype
marks
around
everything.
And archetype
that has
generate
a space
in quotation marks.
Separating it.
Otherwise, it's not going to get parsed correctly by PowerShell. So you see I have MVN and then archetype generate. And archetype generate is in quotation marks. Just double check that everything is working. Oh, it seems to be working, maybe. Okay. Yeah, seems to be working. Okay, so now I have all the parameters, and they're encased in quotation marks. So I'm going to press enter.
Maybe.
And okay, so Maven is going to do
some work, and then
seems to be working.
Right.
Okay, so now I have all the
shell,
all the parameters, and they're encased in quotation marks. So I'm going to press enter. And,
okay, so it says build success.
So Maven is going to do
some work, and then
it took about
13 and a half seconds
messages to.
If you have just installed Maven, it may take a while on the first run. This is because Maven is downloading most of the recent artifacts. So, for example, plugin jars and other
so it
files
says
into
build
your
success
local repository. You may need to execute the command a couple of times before it succeeds. This is because the remote server may time out before. If you have just installed Maven, it may take a while on the first run. This is because Maven is downloading most of the recent artifacts.
You will notice that,
so for example,
the
plugin jars and other files
created
into your
a
local
directory
repository
with
you
the
may
same
need
name
to execute the command a couple of times before it succeeds. This is
So
because the remote server may
into
time
that
out before
directory.
your downloads are
So
complete. Don't worry, there is always
ways.
there are always ways to fix
then
that.
draw.
You will notice that the
the
generate goal
directory
created
structure
a directory with the same name
and it
given
looks like
as
this.
the artifact
Doesn't
ID.
so change in
Provide
that
the
directory.
the leaf nodes,
my
my
app,
tree,
and
then
draw
the
thing, but
it
directory
Please,
structure.
trust me that
there is an
like this.
app test.java and an app.java.
If you don't believe me,
Provide the
let's go to
the leaf nodes,
this tree
my app,
and
drawing
see
what's in there.
thing,
But
please
XML,
trust me that, and then in main
there is an app
test.java
and an app.java.
If you don't believe
Java, let's go to
also
my app
test
and
see
the test
directory.
So you see
Okay.
Pom.xml.
So
POM
and
.xml
is the
project object model.
so that
Java
is parallel to
the document object model in HTML that you may be familiar with if you have ever programmed in JavaScript.
Okay.
The Pom.xml file is the core of the project's
Pom.xml
is a single configuration file that contains
project
object
information
so
required
that
to
is
build a
parallel
project
to
in just
the
way
document
you want.
object model.
The Pom
is huge
HTML
and can be daunting in its complexity, but is not necessary to understand all of its
the
Pom.xml file is the core of the project's configuration.
This project's
in Maven.
Pom
is a single configuration file that contains the majority of information required to build a project in just the way you want. XML structure
The
is
Pom
defined
is
huge and can be daunting in its complexity, but is not necessary to understand all of its pieces of information
yet
to use it effectively. This project's Pom is as follows. What did I just do? You executed the Maven goal archetype generate XML structure and passed in various parameters to that goal. The prefix archetype is the plugin that provides the goal. Pieces of information. You're familiar with Ant that we're going
which
to,
is another
Apache project.
Skim.
You may
What did I
this
just do?
You executed the Maven goal archetype generate. This archetype
passed in various
parameters to the project based upon the Maven. The prefix archetype is the plugin that provides the goal. If you are familiar with Ant, suffice it to say for now that a plugin is a collection of goals you may
with a general
common purpose. Similar to JBoss-Maven. This archetype generate goal created a simple project based upon the Maven
JBoss
archetype quick start. So essentially the way I understand this is that suffice it to say for now that a plugin is a collection of goals and
with
the
a general
goals are the tasks. For example, the JBoss-Maven
those
plugin modules can perform, whose project is deal with. Okay, so we can build the package now by typing. So essentially, the way I understand this is that inside of the my app directory, like modules. And the goals
won't
are
work
the
if
tasks
you
or
in
functions
the root
that those
of
modules can perform. Okay, so we can build the package now by typing nvn package inside of the my app and then directory. It tells me that it finished successfully. It won't work if you, unlike the first command executed, archetype generate, you may notice this second is simply a single word, package. Rather than a goal, this is a phase. A phase is a step in the build's lifecycle. And then it tells me that it is an ordered sequence of phases. When a phase is given, Maven will execute unlike the first command executed, archetype generate. For example, you may notice this second phase is simply a single word, actually get rather than a goal, one validate, a phase. A phase is a step in the build's lifecycle. Process sources, which is an ordered sequence of phases. When a phase is given, Maven will execute every phase in the sequence newly compiled and packaged jar. For example, if we execute the compile phase, so I'm just going to compile this, actually copy it rather than write it out. One, validate, and two, generate sources. Outputs, three, hello world. Process sources. So what did I do here? I ran Java process resources with a class path. You may test target newly compiled my app and package jar with the following command. So I'm just going to compile this, copy it rather than write it out. So that is the jar file. It outputs the hello world frame. So what did I do? This is the package. I ran Java with a class name. Target / my app. All it does is print hello world to the terminal. Java 9 or 1.0 dash by default your version of Maven. So that is the jar file, and this is the Maven dash frame plugin. This is the package name. So you can this is fix the class name by setting the Maven compiler. All it does is print hello world to the terminal. Java 9 or later. Which I did actually. By default, your version of Maven might use an old version of the Maven dash compiler plugin. So you can fix that by setting the Maven.compiler release to your version of. So let me show you how to edit, which I did actually, your Pom file to have these updated in here. Tags. Wait, what?
we're going to add this
true.
and check that the version it's targeting.
So let me show you how to edit
your Pom file to have these 3.8.1 at least tags. So I'm going to open, so we're going to add this and check that the version it's targeting, select that, is, and then it will show that there is a Pom 3.8.1 at XML. And then I can actually copy open this whole element app and throw it inside of properties, select that, under the source encoding line, because normally we want the source encoding to be read first, because it sort of defines how everything. And then I can actually copy, and also let's double check element and throw it inside of. So this is 3.8.0. It's going to make source encoding line, because normally we want the source encoding and to be read first, because it sort of defines how everything else is interpreted. Okay, and so also let's double check Maven tools, Maven phases. Although hardly a comprehensive list, these are the most common default lifecycle. It's going to make it executed. Validate. And now I saved it. Compile and test. Package, integration test, verify, install, so running, deploy. I'm not going to read what all of these do. Although hardly a comprehensive list, these are the most common default lifecycle. They could be more confusing than helpful. Validate, especially if you're a beginner. Test, and then it says here there are two other life tests: cycle, verify, install, life cycles of node beyond the default. I'm not going to read what all of these do. Cite. Because they could be more actually mapped to underlying goals, especially if you're a beginner. Goals executed per phase. And then it says here there are two other life cycles dependent upon the packaging life cycles of the node. For example, package above, they are jar and cite. So the phases goal of the are actually mapped to underlying goals. The specific goals executed per phase. The specific goals executed per phase is dependent upon the packaging of the project. For example, package executes jar archetype. So the jar goal the project of the jar. Project type is a jar, and war. What did they call this? If the project type is, you guessed it, a war. An interesting thing to note is that phases and goals may be executed in sequence. If the project is project type is a jar, copy dependencies war. This command will clean the project copy dependencies, and package the project war. Executing all phases. An interesting thing to note is that phases and goals let's try that in PowerShell sequence. So Maven clean dependency copy dependencies package. This command will clean the project, copy dependencies, and package the project, executing all phases up to package, of course. So let's try that in the PowerShell. So I'm going to paste it here. I don't know what just happened, but so this should package. This should clean and package. It's not copying properly. My app. There we go. And then we can also run Maven site. So this should package. This has released. This should clean and package not supported my app. So then let's change it to 12. And then we can also run Maven site, a pre-release version. So this has released version 13 not supported. So then let's change it to 12, because 13 is after all a pre-release version. So the compiler release being 12. Let's see if that works. Okay, it seems to have worked. Again with, let's go to the last step, Maven site. This phase generates a site based on compiler information on the project's POM. You can look at the documentation generated under target. Okay, it seems to have worked. Let's go to the last step, Maven site. This phase generates a site based upon information on the project's POM. You can look at the documentation generated under target and / site. Let's take a look at that. We're going. So it should be building. That folder has appeared now. It's not finished. And then what's the main
maybe summary. Oh, index. There we go. Ha! See that folder has appeared now. So this is the website that was generated by. What's the main? Maybe summary. Oh, index. There we go. And it actually lists the dependencies and stuff. So this is the website that was generated by Maven. So that's kind of cool. It gives you a very and it actually lists elegant summary, dependencies, and navigable summary of your whole project. So it says, we hope this quick overview has piqued your interest, and then you can continue by doing the kind of cool. It gives you a very so let's try this a little bit. I don't have all that much time. Navigable summary of your whole project. It says, we hope this guide is intended as a reference for those working with Maven, and then you can continue by also intended to serve as a started guide with self-contained references a little bit. I don't have all that much time. For first-time users, it is recommended that you it says here, through the material. This guide is intended as a reference for those working with Maven for the first more familiar time, but is also intended to serve as a cookbook to provide a quick solution with self-contained references and solutions for common use cases. For first-time users, it is recommended that you step through the material in a sequential fashion. For users with more familiar with Maven, so now you have Maven installed and you're ready to go. Before we jump into our examples, we'll very briefly go over what Maven is and how it can help you on your local machine, with your daily work. If you have not done so, please refer to the download and install. Maven will, of course, work for small projects, so now you have Maven installed and shines in helping. Before we jump into our examples, we'll very briefly go over what Maven is and how it can help you of a project require your daily work. You can lead the collaborative build infrastructure with team members. Maven will, of course, work for small projects. Sections. What is shines in helping teams operate more effectively by allowing benefit my development process on what the stakeholders of a project require. You can leave the build infrastructure to Maven. Okay. Sections. What is Maven? How can Maven make? How do I set it up? Benefit how do I my development process? How do I compile my application sources? How do I compile my test sources and run my unit tests? How do I create a jar and install it to my local repository? What is a snapshot? How do I use plugins? How do I add resources? How do I set it up? How do I make a project? External dependencies? How do I compile my application sources? How do I compile my test sources and run my unit tests? How do I create a jar and install it to my local repository? Maven can appear to be many things. How do I use plugins? How do I add resources? How do I patterns, filter, build infrastructure? Use external dependencies in order to my jar, comprehension, and productivity. Build providing types, a clear path build more than one project. What is Maven? At first glance, Maven can appear to be many things, but in a nutshell, Maven is essentially a project management and project build infrastructure, and as such, provides a way to help with managing, build, documentation, reporting, dependencies, SCMs, best practices, releases, distributions. Maven is essentially a project management. If you want more background information on Maven, and as such, provides a way to help Maven with managing and the history of documentation, reporting. Now let's move on to how you, the user, can benefit from using distributions. If you want more background information on Maven, you can check out the philosophy of Maven, your build process, and the history of Maven. Now let's move on to how you, the user, can benefit your development cycle while at the same time helping you achieve a high rate of success. How can Maven benefit? Now that we have covered a little bit of development process, Maven can provide benefits for your build process by employing to get you up and running with Maven. Standard conventions and practices. The defaults for Maven are often sufficient, but if you helping you achieve a high rate of success. Location. Now that we have covered a little bit of history and purpose of Maven, you will need to get into some real examples to get you up and running with Maven. To configure how do I set up Maven for more information? The defaults for Maven are often sufficient, but if you need to change the cache location or are behind an HTTP proxy, you will need to create configuration. It says Maven configuration occurs at 3 levels. Project, installation, user. Project is the most static configuration. Short. It looks in the Pom.xml installation. This is configuration. It says Maven configuration occurs at 3 levels. Project, installation, user. Project is the most static configuration. The separation is quite clear. The project defines in the Pom.xml installation. This is the others both define settings for the current user. This is Note the installation and user configuration cannot.
The separation
be
is
used
quite
to
clear.
add the project defines
Shared project
that applies to
information,
the project,
for example,
no matter
setting,
who is building it,
organization, or distribution management.
while the others
For
both
this,
define
you should
settings
have
for
your
the
project
current
inherent
environment.
from a company-wide
Note
parent.
the installation and
Pom
user
XML.
configuration.
You can specify your
cannot
user
be used to
configuration
add
in shared project information, for example,
$,
setting, organization, or distribution management.
user.home.
For this, you should have your project inherent
so this is
from a
actually like
company-wide
bash
parent,
notation.
Pom.xml. You can specify your
A
user
full
configuration
reference
in.
to, although actually this notation
$,
also work in PowerShell. A full reference to the configuration file is available. This section will show you
this is
how
actually
to make
like bash
common
notation.
configurations. Note that the full file,
A full reference
file is not
to,
required. Default will be used.
although
if
actually
it is
this
not
notation
found.
will also work in
Configuring your local
PowerShell.
repository.
A full reference to the
location of your local
available.
repository can be changed.
This
in
section
your
will show you how to make
the default
some
value
common configuration.
is note that the full file, the file is not required. Default will be used if it is not found.
Configuring
your local repository, creating the location of your local repository can be changed in your user configuration. Actually, the default value, I assume, is don't need it right now. Here, using mirrors for
so you can change
a local repository,
cool,
creating a proxy. Okay,
repositories can be declared inside of a project, which
that
I
if you have your own custom repository,
don't need it right now.
Those sharing your project easily get the right settings out of the box. However, you may want to use an alternative mirror for a repository without changing the project files.
Repositories can be declared inside of a project, which means that if you have your own custom repositories,
those sharing your project easily get you can get the right
passwords
in your
settings
However,
file.
you may want to use an alternative mirror for a repository without changing the project files. Sorry. Guide to password encryption.
Cool.
Yeah, so you can encrypt passwords in your settings file. Let's see what's going on here. To encrypt your passwords when they are guide to password encryption. Yeah, so it's important. XML, because XML can just be read directly.
Okay, so
let's go forward now. We are going to jump headlong into creating your first Maven project. To create our first Maven project, because XML can just be read, use Maven's archetype mechanism. An archetype is defined as an original pattern or model from which all other things of the same kind are made. Now, we are going to jump headlong into creating your first Maven project. Is a template for a project which is combined with some user input to produce Maven's mechanism project that has an archetype is defined as an original pattern or model from which we are going to show you how the archetype mechanism works. In Maven, an archetype. But if you would like to know more about the template for the project which is combined with some user input to produce a working Maven project that has been tailored.
Okay, so on to creating your first project,
we are going to show you how the simplest of Maven projects execute the following from the command line. But if you would like to know more about the archetypes, please refer to our introduction to archetypes. Okay, so on to creating your first project, in order to create the simplest of Maven projects, execute the following from the command line. So again, I'm going to have to format this for PowerShell, which means I'm going to take this one line at a time because I don't know. I don't think this is the way of doing multi-line commands. -d archetype group id equals org dot Apache dot Maven dot -d archetype and then -d group id equals org dot Apache and dot Maven dot archetype -d artifact and then -d id group id my dash equals com dot my company. So I believe we already did this, right? -d artifact because id equals my dash. If it's repeating what we just did. So I believe we already did this, right? Yeah, because right.
I wonder if
so
it's
that
repeating.
means probably I need to remove
What we just
my
did.
app. It's used by another. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. So that means probably I need to
so
remove
let's try this again
in the F directory, in the root directory rather. It's used by another. Oh, right. So now, okay, so let's create the Pom Xml again, F and directory, then the root directory rather. Yeah, we actually learned all of this stuff already. So now there's a little bit of redundancy. It's going to create the Pom.xml again. Okay, how do I compile my application sources? And then, yeah, we actually learned all of this stuff already. So let's go into. So there's a little bit of redundancy here. My dash. Okay, how do I compile my application sources? Compile. MVN.compile. So let's go into at the end of which is build. Let's go into my dash app and then do let's see if we get that compile. The first time you execute this, Maven will need to download all the plugins related to dependencies, blah, 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 at the end of which is build successful. So let's see if we get that. Okay. Probably I need to change. The first time you execute this, Maven will need to download all the plugins related to dependencies, blah, blah, blah. ES code. So it says, probably I need compilation failure. Source option 5 is no longer supported. Use 7 or later. So let me see. Source option 5. I'm not sure what that means. So it says, compilation failure. Source option 5 is no longer supported. Use 7 or later. Source option 5. I'm not sure what that means. Source and target. Okay, wait. Let's take a look at what command I did too. I did compile, right? Source and target. Okay, wait. Let's take a look at what command I did too. I did compile, right? Okay. Enable full debug logging. Let's try this again. So -x. Ooh, I should have maybe output this to a text file. Okay, wait, it worked. Enable full debug logging. Let's try this again. So -x. Ooh, I should have maybe output this to a text file. Wait, it worked? That's confusing. Okay, maybe it was just because Maven was downloading things. So, how do I compile my test? Maybe it was just because Maven was downloading things. So let me just read this. As you have seen from the output, the compile classes were placed in target classes. So if I go to I compile my test, my app target classes. So let me just read this. As you have seen from the output, the compile classes were placed in target under classes. The package. So if I go to, of course. So if you're a keen observer, you'll notice that by using target conventions, the Pom above is very small, and you haven't had to tell Maven explicitly where any of your sources are or where the output structure, of course. By following the standard Maven conventions, so if you're a keen observer, you'll notice that by using the standard conventions, as the Pom above is very small, let's take a look at haven't had to tell Maven explicitly where any of your sources are or where the output should go. By following the standard Maven conventions, you can get a lot done with very little effort. Just as a casual comparison, let's take a look at what you might have to do in Ant to accomplish the same thing. Yes, this is it. That here. I've never actually used Ant, so I can't say that that is the XML file needed to accomplish the same thing. But I'm going to assume it is. I guess. Now this is simply to compile. I've never actually used application sources, and the Ant script can't say that that is the same size as the Pom shown above. XML file needed to accomplish the same thing. More we can do, I'm going to assume it is
just that simple.
Now this is simply to compile a single tree of application sources, and the Ant script shown is pretty much the same size as the Pom shown above. But we'll see how much more we can do with just that simple Pom. How do I compile my test sources and run my unit tests? Now you're successfully compiling your application sources, and now you've got some unit tests that want to compile and execute. Because every programmer always writes and executes. How do I compile my test sources and run my unit tests? Now, if you don't know about unit tests, your application sources, then now you've got some unit tests. Just understand that they are, because every programmer always writes and executes parallel to the development of your if you don't know about unit tests, so you will write code that is supposed to do just understand that and they are tests to. They are parallel to the development of your code. So you will write code that is supposed to do those two things should be done in parallel. And then you should create your code that accomplishes the code and also and does accomplishes the thing that you thought that it would. Some cases. Those two things should be done in parallel. The code is you should create your code that accomplishes the tasks and also let's try the following MDN test that check some cases on my dash app that will determine whether the code is executing properly. If it will, in basic ways. Okay, so let's try the following MDN testing again. I'm gonna run it without the dash app dash to see switch. If it will, see if it works. Okay, so I got this thing again. Seems to do. I'm just gonna run it without the dash s. That does suggest that it's sometimes a downloading issue. Works. And there were 0 errors, 0 failures, and no tests skipped. So something to notice. That does suggest that Maven downloads more dependencies downloading this time. These are dependencies and plugins necessary for executing the tests. There were 0 errors, already has 0 failures, and no compiling, and won't download them again. Before compiling and executing the tests, Maven downloads more dependent code this time. All these are dependencies and plugins necessary for executing the tests. Since it already has the dependencies it needs for compiling. You simply want to compile your test sources, but not execute. Before compiling and executing, you can execute the following. Maven compiles MDN test dash classes are up to date because we haven't changed anything since we compiled last. If you simply want to compile your test sources but not execute the tests, you can execute the following. MDN test dash now that you can compile your application sources, compile your tests, and execute the tests, you'll want to move on to the next logical step. So you'll compile your test sources. How do I create a jar and install it in my local repository? Making a jar file. Now that you can compile your application sources, compile your tests, and execute the tests, you'll want to move on to the next logical step. If you take a look at Pom, how do I create a jar and install it in my local repository? Making a jar file is straightforward enough and can be accomplished by a jar file from the above command. We'll talk more about this later. If you take a look at the Pom look for your project, you will notice that the target directory and you will see the generated jar. This is how Maven knows to produce a jar file from there, the above command. We'll talk more about this later. You can now look in you'll want to install the artifact target directory and you will see your local generated jar. For more information on repositories, go in there, and it would do indeed. You can refer to now you'll want to install the artifact you generated in your local repository to do so. For more information on repositories So I do not have my home introduction to repositories, but let's move on to installing our artifact. I think I might have execute the following command. So I do not have my home. Yeah, so I think Windows has this default. I think I might have directory. So it's like your C drive or your internal drive. Yeah, so I think Windows has this default and then home directory username. So it's like if I do MDN install now, C drive or your internal drive letter create and then users and then / folder and then your username. So if I do mvn install now, it tells me create a folder that it targeted this path, and it tells me, okay, so note that the Surefire plugin, which executes the test, looks for tests contained in files with a particular naming convention, this path. By default, the tests included are okay, so note file names that the Surefire plugin, which executes the tests, file names that have tests contained in files with a particular naming convention, and then .java. By default, the tests included files that end with testcase.java. So file names that have test.java at the end, or anything that has the word abstract in the beginning and then .java at the end, or files that end with testcase.java. And the default excludes walk through the process for setting up anything that has the word abstract Maven in the beginning. This is likely the vast majority of what projects will be doing with Maven. And then if you notice, everything you've been able to do at this point has been driven by an 18-line walk through the process for setting up, namely the project and installing a typical Maven project. This is likely the vast majority of what projects will be doing with Maven. And if you've noticed, everything that we do up to this point has been driven by already twice the size of the Pom, namely the project getting started. There is far more functionality available to you from Maven without requiring any that provides the same functionality that we've achieved thus far. You'll notice it's already twice the size of the Pom out of your just getting started file. There is much more functionality available to you from Maven without requiring any additions to our Pom as it currently stands. So it's saying that to get any more functionality out of your example edit that we make to the build file, if we were making error-prone additions, is subject to potential errors. Okay, so it's saying that what else can you get for free? There are a number of great edit that we make to that build file if we were using a simple Pom like we have above. Subject to, we'll mention one here specifically as it is one of the highly prized features. So what else can you get for free? There are a number of great Pom has enough Maven plugins that work out of the box with even a simple. You will most likely want to customize your Maven site. We'll mention one here specifically as it is one of the highly prized features of Maven. Without any work on your part already, there are plenty of standalone goals that can be executed as well. For example, you will most likely want to customize your Maven site, but if you're pressed for time, all you need to do is provide basic information about your project version. By executing notice the value of the version tag. There are plenty of standalone goals that can be executed as well. For example, Maven shown below has the suffix dash snapshot. What is a snapshot version? The 1.0 dash. Notice the value of the version. The snapshot value refers to the latest code. Wait, what? Along a development branch. Shown below has the suffix dash stable snapshot unchanging. Conversely, the code in a release version. So any value snapshot value refers to the latest code unchanging. In other words, along a development branch. A snapshot version no guarantee the code development stable before the final release version. The code in a snapshot is older. So any value without the suffix snapshot is unchanging. In other words, a snapshot version is the development version before the final release version. Older than its release. The snapshot is older than its release. Oh, I see. So the snapshot will eventually result in a version that has no bugs, supposedly, and then you release that code, and so. Oh, I see. So the snapshot will eventually result in a version that has no bugs, supposedly, just before. And then you release that code, the version, and so then you're going to increment your version. So my time is up. So that snapshot continue. How do I use plugin just before the next time of the version?